Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 23rd and tonight's classic is Jaws. This is a big one. Adjusting for inflation, Jaws is one of the highest grossing movies of all time. It also had a humongous cultural impact. So many things have parodied this, paid homage to this, referenced this, and because of it, we had a huge influx of other shark movies. And I'm pretty sure that almost all of them were terrible, but they only became a thing really after Jaws. Only when I saw this movie did I realize just how many things were referencing Jaws and I didn't even know it. It was a best-selling book that turned into a blockbuster movie that made people all across America feel unsafe to go back in the water. But this is all about how things stand up today. And I watched Jaws and it's okay. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. The plot of Jaws is very simple. There's this giant shark that has made the beaches by a small town its feeding grounds. And basically, the police chief or the fishermen or everybody is trying to figure out a way to kill that shark. Not only because it's really dangerous to have a giant man-eating shark just running free on the beaches, but also because the main source of income for this town is summer tourism. I was told that one of the most innovative and effective things about this movie is that they waited as long as they possibly could before showing the shark. Most of it was just POV shots from the shark. It was a while into the movie before you saw any of it at all, and even longer into it before you actually got a good look at it. But I don't know. I mean, I guess that would work if you were like creating your own design for a monster and everybody's wondering what it looks like, but people know what sharks look like. Are we supposed to be surprised by how big it is? I mean, it's pretty big. It's like 20 feet long, but I don't know if it's shockingly, horrifyingly big. I have to say, the pacing in Jaws is nothing like how I thought it was going to be. I thought that a lot of the movie was going to start out before the shark attacks even begin happening to, establish the characters in the setting. Then attacks start happening, and then by the end of the second act, that's when we find out what we're dealing with. It's a giant shark. We need to send somebody out there to kill it. But as it turns out, the situation is made clear and the shark has a bounty on its head probably less than 30 minutes into the movie. There's a lot more time sort of expanding on just how unusually big and vicious the shark actually is. And then we spend the entire third act on a boat, which I will say went on for too long. They could have cut down this movie by spending less time on that boat or spending more time doing something else. I really did like the characters in Jaws. There are three main characters. The sheriff, or head of police, Martin, he is played by Richard Dreyfuss. He's pretty much the standard everyman. Just imagine somebody's dad, and that's Martin from Jaws. We also have Matthew Hooper, who is this sort of scientist guy who was sent in to do research and help with the shark. I liked him a lot. He was snarky and didn't take any crap from anybody. Matt Hooper was a pretty good character, and I liked the acting a lot. The third main character is Quinn, this old salty sea dog who is kind of like a foil to Matt Hooper. He's the old-fashioned, just get her done, don't do anything fancy sort of person. The interactions between Matt and Quinn were pretty funny throughout the movie, and very interesting. The three of them all work together to sort of create a good dynamic. I was also warned by a lot of people who have seen this movie that I will look at the shark effect in this movie and laugh. But I have to say, from a distance, it looks fine. For pretty much most of the entire movie, it looks fine. Only when you really get close to its face can you see that it's definitely not alive. And there was this one shot where he was eating up the back of a boat where he legitimately looked like a sock puppet. There are enough good things in Jaws to make it an enjoyable watch, but I don't think it was really good enough to warrant being turned into the cultural icon it's become over the years. I feel like maybe it was just in the right place at the right time, or maybe things were different back in the mid-70s to make this movie so huge. I didn't think it was scary at all, but it was a pretty well-made movie for the most part. And I can't deny this movie's cultural impact. After seeing all the media that this has influenced, it was very interesting to actually sit down and watch the movie that started it all. And I think that even from that alone, it's worth a watch. Okay, now let's go into the spoilers, even though I don't really know who I'm spoiling this movie for. To be honest, I was kind of expecting a lot higher of a body count in this movie, but the shark only really kills maybe half a dozen people. There's only 3 or 4 shark attacks before they go out in the boat to kill it. So Quinn, Martin, and Matt all go out in a fishing boat to try to kill it, by the book with harpooning. But as it turns out, this shark is so big and so strong that harpooning doesn't do the trick. It can ram into the boat and damage it, and it can also rip off the metal cleats that were holding the ropes that attached it to the boat. It was also able to pretty easily break into a shark cage, which are made specifically to stop sharks. They formulate a plan where basically Matt would go down into the shark cage and basically shoot a poison-tipped harpoon at the shark and kill it. But once the shark attacks the cage, he drops it and goes down to look for it. And I guess the shark didn't feel like eating him. I don't know. So it goes back up and starts attacking the boat again. Quinn ends up getting eaten by the shark, but in the process, the shark ends up with one of the air tanks, the compressed air tanks that scuba divers use, in its mouth. And they definitely broadcast what this ending was going to be very early on in the voyage. Matt straight up said those tanks will explode if you mess with them, and throughout so many points in this third act, they kept cutting to this one specific air tank. And then we got the famous scene at the very end where basically the entire boat is underwater. Martin is up on the crow's nest, or the equivalent of a crow's nest, with a shotgun, and he's trying to shoot the tank and blow up the shark. And then we get the famous "smile you son of a" pow, boom, shark guts fly everywhere. Matt comes up and Matt and Martin paddle to shore, and then the movie ends. I was expecting there to be a denouement, a wrap up, going back to the shore, but no, it just stops. Jaws is nowhere close to being as good as I've told it's been, or even as bad as I've told it's been by some other people. I'd say that now it's just a good but not great movie, though it was interesting to watch such a cultural icon. Okay, I'll see y'all tomorrow.